The following is a Michigan Sesquicentennial Year presentation.
Michigan Outdoors is made possible in part by a grant from the Stroh Brewery Company, who also bring you Stroh's and Stroh Light, fire brewed for smoother taste.
What are these people waiting for? Well, look what drops in. A moose! That's right, a moose from Ontario that will find a new home in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. This is the second moose lift conducted by the Michigan Department of Natural Resources in conjunction with the province of Ontario, a bold effort to reestablish a moose herd where the deer herd is declining in the UP. Stay tuned. I'm Fred Trost. We'll have an on-the-spot report in just a moment. It's Thursday night, time for Michigan Outdoors.
From the rugged shore and woodlands of the north, its history of copper mines and iron ore, the Great Lakes fisheries. To the farmlands of the southern counties, we'll look around again at all that waits the sportsman in the state of Michigan. And sometimes when the moon brings out the diamonds in the snow, and the stillness of the forest lies encased in Arctic cold, the wind might whisper through the trees, listen if you can, it tells you of the beauty in this state of Michigan.
White-tailed deer in some parts of the northern Upper Peninsula are on the decline, mainly due to the growth of the forests. Deer need grasses, shrubs, young vegetation for food and cover, not tall stands of trees. As the deer have declined in those areas, the DNR has decided to replace them with moose. This is Moose Lift 2, the second transplant of 29 mature moose from Ontario's Algonquin Provincial Park to northern Michigan, a joint effort between our DNR and the Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources. Now, this bull has been tranquilized by a dart fired from a chase helicopter that stays near the moose, keeping it from running back into the woods where it would be difficult to capture. It takes about 10 minutes for a tranquilized moose to collapse. After 5 minutes or so, it begins weaving. Notice the tracks in the snow. This procedure was followed about 4 times a day for a week as the DNR worked towards its goal of 30 moose to be added to the group that was imported the same way back in 1985. In that year, 31 were captured, and after normal losses and the gains from the new calves, the original herd in January stood at 49. It's been about 10 minutes, and this bull is ready to drop. Word is sent back to a staging area that's getting ready to give the bull a thorough physical and put him in a crate. But first, a few preparations on the frozen lake have to be made. Steve Schmidt, DNR veterinarian, was heading up the capture team, and he's the one who tranquilized all the moose from the helicopter. And he's the first one to the moose once it's down. The antlers on that moose aren't trophy book antlers by any stretch of the imagination, but they're still heavy, they're dangerous. A quick jerk of the bull's head could severely injure anyone who got in the way. That's why the first order of business is to saw them off. An ointment is put in the eye of all of the moose to keep it from drying out. Then a mask is put on to cover its eyes like blinders. From stem to stern, from the temperature to the teeth, a whole battery of data is collected. Life signs are monitored continuously. All this in preparation for a helicopter ride by this moose. This is the sling that will lift it gently as it's transported as quickly as possible to the staging area. Now, to this point, about 15 minutes have passed since the moose fell from the tranquilizer dart. For another 12 or 14 minutes, this moose will be airborne. The average moose weighs 800 to 1,000 pounds. Some of them went up to 1,200 pounds. That's at least 7 or 8 times as large as the average Michigan deer. This Algonquin Park terrain looks a lot like the mature forests in northern Michigan, and these moose will be right at home. 15 new bulls with as many new cows. The idea is to encourage reproduction as quickly as possible so Michigan's moose herd can reach 1,000 in another 12 years. Now, if you thought this bull received a lot of attention when it was captured, watch the team of biologists, veterinarians, and technicians. They've been waiting for months to use their training for the next few minutes, a critical time period for the moose's health. Now they can jump into action. In a matter of minutes, the moose is hoisted into a crate. You'll notice the Safari Club International symbols on these crates. The Michigan chapters of Safari Club have been the biggest outside contributor of funds to the moose program. If it wasn't for SCI, it's doubtful that our moose program would be where it is today. But thanks to them and to the many other state and local groups that have contributed, the trucks rolled out of Ontario each day of the moose lift. At 5 a.m., they were being processed at customs at Sault Ste. Marie. Plenty of paperwork when you're bringing moose across the border, but the channels were cleared without delay so these moose could continue their 16-hour drive to Van Riper State Park near Marquette, the site of the moose release less than a day after they were captured. Interest was high. Crowds on some days numbered 1,000 or more to watch these new immigrants set foot on Michigan soil. Out of 30 moose captured, 29 survived with no problems. Only one developed complications from the stress. They were checked frequently during their road trip and given a final exam through the crate just before their release. All the moose were fitted with radio collars so they can be tracked individually to check their survival, their reproduction, their traveling, which is quite far throughout the northern Upper Peninsula. The biggest concern, the biggest threat to their well-being is brainworm, a parasite that most deer carry. It doesn't hurt the deer, but if a moose gets brainworm, it'll die. That's why previous moose transplants in the UP didn't work. They got brainworm from the deer. In this part of the UP, where deer numbers are down, moose survival is up. Now we're at the moment that everyone's been waiting for, the release, and nobody's been waiting more impatiently than the moose.
You're getting good at this. Hey, how's
There goes an interesting-looking creature, one that's destined to be photographed many times in the years ahead. By the year 2000, the DNR may call for a limited hunt, maybe to keep the moose from spreading into deer territory and spreading brainworm among their own numbers. The idea is to keep the herd healthy, in balance with its habitat. That's the North American moose, a welcome addition to Michigan Outdoors. We don't have morels in our trophy book, but we do for turkeys and deer and fish. Let's take a look at them right now. Ron Northman from New Baltimore bagged a 17-pound wild turkey in Ogemaw County, easily making the trophy book with a 10-inch beard. In the buck division, Ron Cluett from Taylor took this 10-pointer, a 200-pound buck from Hillsdale County. This 16-inch, nearly 2-pound crappie hit a jig Greg Hannert from Livonia was fly casting in Brevoort Lake in Mackinac County. Bass season is just around the corner. Lunkers like this 24-incher are waiting for you. Richard Weber from Greenville caught it on a hula popper in Montcalm County's Tallman Lake. With a trout opener this weekend, you might want to learn the secret technique that took this Upper Peninsula brookie.
This was in July, the 10th of July, Dutch Fred Lake up in Schoolcraft County in the UP. How, do you put weight on it to jig it?
well, that's kind of a secret. I don't, I don't really let that secret out.
But you jig a flatfish. How big of a flatfish?
It's an F4.
Okay. F4, like maybe a little sinker on it or something?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
But you don't probably jerk it, real hard, do you? Just little twitches, or...
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
Yeah, I think I'm getting warm. Did this fish put up a good battle?
Sure did. It sure did.
How long did you have it on?
Oh, about 20 minutes, probably. Yeah. I was fishing with real light line, and it was exciting all the way. Right?
Like light? How light?
It was 4-pound test.
Did it hit when you were jigging it, or when it was settling?
I don't really know.
You don't know, I bet. What a story. Ken McPhail with the biggest brook trout here this evening, 4 pounds, 10 ounces, 20 inches long.
Well, for giving us his secret, the best we can do is make Ken McPhail from Freeland our Michigan Outdoors Trophy Angler of the Week.
Hunting is fast becoming a safer sport than ever in Michigan outdoors. 1986 was the safest season in almost 50 years. And anyone looking for problems with last year's handgun deer hunting in southern Michigan should be disappointed. There were no reported handgun accidents and no problems with illegal possession or handling of handguns. Lots of folks were on hand Monday north of Mile for the reintroduction of the grayling. The fish planted there were about 7 inches long, and their prospects for survival are excellent.
You know the #1 game bird in the United States? It's the mourning dove. It's small but tasty. Over 50 million are harvested by hunters in most other states every year. It's migratory, so Michigan doves are taken by hunters to the south of us. What about a season in Michigan? Bob Garner comments.
The issue of a dove season in Michigan is now closed. The appeals court officially closed it in a decision in early March of this year. The court ruled that the legislature had not given the Natural Resources Commission the authority to hold a dove season. Now, that decision does not prevent the state from ever having a dove season. It merely told the Natural Resources Commission that if it wants a dove season, it has to get approval from the legislature. The odds that the legislature will pass such a bill are long odds at best. In fact, several members of the legislature have introduced bills to ban dove hunting if the courts didn't stop it. These bills were introduced because legislators only heard from constituents who were ill-informed on the impact of hunting doves or who were outright anti-hunting. The rank-and-file sportsmen just didn't seem to get involved. Now, the same situation existed in Indiana in 1983. Repeated attempts by their DNR to open a dove season had been squashed by their legislature until the organized duck hunters got involved. They realized that the hunting of migratory birds like doves could be done just as wisely as the hunting of migratory waterfowl, such as ducks and geese. They amassed a letter-writing campaign that sent legislators a message almost 10-1 that there was strong support for a dove season. And because waterfowlers, by their nature, are involved in habitat conservation and wetland work, they had a great credibility with the legislature. In 1984, Indiana approved its first dove season. Now, after 3 statewide dove hunts, dove numbers are up, opposition is virtually silent, and the horrible things that anti-hunting groups predicted never happened. Michigan could have a dove season too with the same results. Our DNR biologists are sure of it. But in order to fight the emotional rhetoric, it will take the leadership of a knowledgeable and committed sportsman's group. That group has not yet emerged, and until it does, Michigan will be among the few dove-producing states without a dove season.
Probably the biggest topic of interest, Bob, in the hunting community is around the food. You know, using the game, we get questions on this, especially about deer.
We sure do. Earl Sowers of Lansing writes and says, you said, Fred, that an average buck would have 35 pounds of boneless meat. In my experience, I think the average is a lot higher. Please comment.
Well, Earl, a lot of people think their deer are much bigger than they are. If you come to our Deer Hunters Workshop this fall, you'll see one butchered and find out.
This is this back strap muscle. Came right out of here just by filleting it like you would a fish.
There's not
Now look
nearly
what's left.
as much meat on a deer as you think. Glenn Dutterer demonstrates. From a deer that I did 2 years ago, I weighed carefully all of the meat. We take the boneless cuts. I got 8 pounds of loin, 14 pounds of round roast, 6 pounds of very meticulously trimmed scraps. That was 28 pounds. The parts with the bone in it, the shoulder roast, rib, the neck roast, shanks, the mostly bone, were 23 pounds. I doubt if I got more than 38 pounds boneless out of that, we're talking boneless meat, probably 35 with the average yearling deer being about 105 pounds.
And then that's what you had, a 1.5-year-old buck?
That's right. So there isn't as much as it seems. We all think they're a lot bigger, like my bucks with the great big racks. Now let's see if you folks can answer this question in our outdoor quiz.
Nest building among birds is an amazing skill. What indication do we have that nest builders sometimes have very poor memories? Well, robins build fairly sophisticated nests, but they have been known to become confused, evidently, because some have been observed building as many as 20 nests side by side in one backyard.
When was the last time you caught some big bluegill?
Oh, man. As a boy. And then they were little ones. They weren't big.
How big?
Oh,
That big? Get you rigged up with something better than that.
The other day I took Roger McCarville bluegill fishing, the first time for him in many years. I wanted to show him how easy it was at this time of year to catch panfish from shore.
advantage of the shore.
Oh, it doesn't take much. Doesn't take much. A little hook. I use the latest technology to...
Got a light and nice.
The dentist doesn't approve of that. Okay, now we'll set this up for you.
Equipment is minimal for shore fishing. An inexpensive rod, number 6, number 10 hook, a bobber, split shot sinker, and some worms.
Like so, maybe through a couple places. You can gob it up a little bit for bluegills. Like that. There we go. Now we come up like this. Now come on down here, Raj. Come on over here. Maybe. I gotta go on. Can you do that with go at an angle?
The only real difficulty we found in fishing from a wheelchair is getting to the fishing, near enough to the shore. But once that's done, handicappers can fish like anyone else.
Yeah, taking her now.
Come on, come on.
Trying, there you go.
I'd stick him. I'd stick him.
Yeah. Whoa, come on.
Whoa.
Hey, there's a nice one.
Hey, that's a keeper.
Yeah. Where's my bucket here?
Before it goes in the bucket, Rod, you have to get it off the hook.
Oh, hold on. Hold still here, buddy.
Bluegills have sharp dorsal
Oh,
fins, and
God.
you have to handle them with care.
There you go.
Watch out for those teeth, Raj.
Doesn't take long to get enough bluegills for a good meal.
Get my worm back. Hey,
All right.
can you reach it? Yep.
There we go.
Yeah, that's a nice one. Getting that baby full, huh? Look at that. I mean, there's enough bluegill. Feed my family for a while.
Oh, that should be a good one.
All handicappers can't use their arms and hands as well as Raj. We have an article in the Outdoors Forever supplement of this issue of the Digest about physical adaptations for fishing. You know, a physical handicap of any kind shouldn't hold you back from enjoying fishing like this. It's one part of the outdoors that everyone, with a little help, should be able to enjoy forever.
No, go ahead. Don't worry about it. I'm on my way back here. Here's the perfect recipe to introduce somebody to venison who thinks they don't like it. This is called venison pizza casserole. Linda Hondorp from Grand Rapids sent it to us. I tell you, if you think you have a goulash recipe that's good, you ought to lay it up next to this one.
Well, it makes
right?
it nice. It all goes in one pan, basically. And it is just a rib sticking recipe. Get pizza sauce.
I see.
Uh-huh.
A little
Ragu.
ragu.
Some mushrooms, garlic powder, minced onions, some macaroni, and some ground venison. And you're
Now,
gonna-
yeah, that venison has quite a bit of fat in it, actually.
Yep, it sure does. And it looks like it's all ground all at one time there, too.
Although when you cook it up, there
No, you-
isn't much grease.
You can't taste it in this. You really can't. This is, you're going to brown this first. You want this just brown. And you don't add any grease to your pan, just to a hot skillet, because the grease will come out of it.
What is that, about 2 pounds?
About 1.5 pounds.
There's plenty of it, and that's
Yep.
good.
And minced onion. Just go ahead and... You could use fresh onion if you wanted to here. She called for minced. And garlic powder rather than salt. And I can taste
Linda
it.
likes an easy recipe.
Yes.
You can tell.
Yeah, just go ahead and add it. And you want to stir that all together, and it doesn't take very long to brown, and you want it into small pieces. You're going to cook your macaroni first, and that's cooked there.
And put that in the bottom of the casserole?
And it is a greased dish.
It
Yep.
is greased?
Yep, and pour some milk on it because you don't want it to stick. Just a little bit, just enough to keep it from sticking. You're going to add your meat on top. Like I said, this is all one dish here, all layered. Just going to put your meat on top of here, then your pizza sauce, well, your mushrooms, and your pizza sauce, and that's the only sauce in it. That's it.
It is simple.
You don't want to stir this up. You just want this to layer in there. Now, you don't really use 2 full cans. You're going to use, would use one. and a part of
Everybody
another
has
one.
their own favorite kind of sauce.
That's right.
You know, it
This
might
is an
not
easy sauce. It's
always be-
great. You can stick this in the oven and just let it go. You sprinkle cheese on top. You call for mozzarella cheese. You sprinkle that on top and then bake for about 45 minutes in 350-degree oven.
Put
You don't want
plenty
to
of-
cover it. That's right.
Uncovered. So that's
right.
why it has, ends up here that we have this
Brown and
brownish
bubbly.
crust on there, brown and bubbly, and boy, is that good. Bob Garner absolutely
Clean
polished
plate
off
club
his
again.
plate. Now, give us an evaluation, Bob. Obviously, it's going to be a good recipe. Those ingredients, you can't go
Oh,
wrong.
that's absolutely
Can you taste the venison, or is this just a cover-up to make it like hamburger?
Oh, no, I don't think it's a cover-up. Do I taste the predominant flavor of venison? No, it's just a darn good recipe. All the ingredients together make, I think, probably the best goulash recipe I've ever eaten.
And you know, we're used to eating a lot of burger. To me, this doesn't taste like burger,
it doesn't.
but it doesn't have, of course, it could be just this particular piece of venison burger. But I think you could taste a little bit.
Just a
of the
little bit.
venison.
Just underneath the pizza sauce, you can taste it.
All the ingredients in combination are absolutely delightful.
They are. They are. It's great.
This will be the goulash recipe in the Garner house from now on.
Well, and I tell you, and it doesn't have the grease when it comes from venison.
No,
That's right.
Makes
sure
it really
doesn't.
good. Well, folks, it should be a good weekend. We shouldn't have too much bad weather. Try to get outdoors. It's a great place to be. See you next week. It'll die. That's why previous moose transplants in the UP didn't work. They got brainworm from the deer. In this part of the UP, where deer numbers are down, moose survival is up. Now we're at the moment that everyone's been waiting for, the release, and nobody's been waiting more impatiently than the moose. There goes an interesting-looking creature, one that's destined to be photographed many times in the years ahead. By the year 2000, the DNR may call for a limited hunt, maybe to keep the moose from spreading into deer territory and spreading brainworm among their own numbers. The idea is to keep the herd healthy, in balance with its habitat. That's the North American moose, a welcome addition to Michigan Outdoors.